Welcome to the webinar titled Starting Small with My Big Goals. Before we get started, I do want to run through some quick housekeeping slides. The audio for today's meeting can be accessed using computer audio or by calling in by phone. If you select computer audio, please make sure your speakers are turned on or your headphones are plugged in. To call in for audio, dial 301-715-8592. The meeting code is 847-9527-8079. The ASL interpreter will have a spotlight throughout the presentation. For the best viewing experience, please navigate to speaker view using the options at the top right of your screen. Real-time captioning is provided. The captions can be found by clicking on the CC button in the Zoom controls at the bottom of the screen. If you do not see the captions after clicking the CC button, please alert the host via the chat box. Please send your questions, concerns, and any requests for technical assistance to the NDI host via the chat box. Questions will be answered by the presenters if time allows. And if you would prefer to ask your question in ASL, please go ahead and raise your hand and wait to be called on by the host. If your question is not answered during the webinar, or if you're listening by phone, or you are unable to use the chat box, please email ajones@ndi-inc.org. Please note, this webinar is being recorded and the materials will be available at www.disabilitysmallbusiness.org on the past events page within 1 to 2 weeks. Hello and welcome to today's session, again titled Starting Small with My Big Goals. Today's presentation has been pre-recorded and prepared for you to ensure that the expertise, knowledge, and advice from the featured entrepreneurs are accurately passed on to the audience. ASL interpretation and captioning will be available throughout the entirety of this webinar. We will also be holding a live Q&A portion at the end of the presentation. So let's get things started. My name is Sierra Ladroma with Griffin-Hammis Associates. I'm joined by my wonderful colleague, Molly Sullivan. Griffin-Hammis Associates, or GHA, has over 30 years of experience providing training and technical assistance to support individuals across the spectrum of disabilities to become self-employed and small business owners. Now, if you haven't already pulled the chat box up, you can do so by clicking on the icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen that reads chat. Please use the chat box to join the conversation by asking questions, sharing ideas, and leaving comments. The featured entrepreneurs from today's webinar are available during the playing of this recording. This means you can ask Daman, Victor, or the general audience questions or leave comments throughout the presentation. And just a reminder, we'll be hosting a live Q&A portion at the end of today's presentation with the entrepreneurs on today's webinar. Lastly, we want to thank the U.S. Small Business Administration and the National Disability Institute in leading the Community Navigator pilot program that creates the space for this webinar. While the webinar is funded by the U.S. Small Business Administration, all of the opinions, conclusions, and recommendations expressed here are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the views of the SBA. And before saying our goodbyes at the end of today's webinar, we'll share upcoming events that you can look forward to, and the National Disability Institute team will share some exciting information about the Small Business Hub and resources available to you. I am very excited to introduce today's guest speakers. First up, please meet Daman Wandke, the founder and CEO of Wandke Consulting. Daman has cerebral palsy and a master's in business. With a combination of both his life and professional experiences, Daman is uniquely positioned to understand the business's needs and the disability community to offer low-cost, high-impact solutions for our clients. Daman understands that accessibility is not one size fits all. Yet his disability has made him innovative, and he can find the best ways for organizations to make the biggest impacts when investing in the area of accessibility. Daman has over 10 years of experience testing web accessibility in the public and private sectors, ranging from small local businesses to multinational corporations. Before launching Wandke Consulting, Daman founded and developed Abilitrack, a search and review platform that provides people with disabilities critical accessibility information to successfully navigate the world. Daman is also an educator, as he is an instructor at Western Washington University, where he teaches disability studies as disability in the media and disability in leadership. In addition to his duties at Wandke Consulting, Daman is greatly involved in the disability community. Daman serves on multiple advisory boards, has been inducted into the Susan M. Daniels Disability Mentoring Hall of Fame, and is incredibly passionate about hiring and mentoring people with disabilities. I'd also love to introduce to you Victor Ocando, the founder and CEO of Adapt the Game, a startup focusing on improving the game day experience for fans with disabilities. Before founding Adapt the Game, Victor, as a Venezuelan attorney, practiced international sports law, specializing in football, also known as soccer law, representing different stakeholders, including clubs, players, leagues, and agencies in South America and Europe. He has over 8 years of experience working in the sports industry. Victor is a frequent lecturer in congresses, conferences, and seminars about sports management and sports law. He is an adaptive athlete and adaptive sports advocate, as well as a motivational speaker for sports and inclusion organizations. Victor is committed to transforming the sports industry through inclusion and accessibility for all. Thank you, Daman and Victor, for being here today to share your knowledge and experience in starting and growing your businesses. Today's conversation is great for anyone who is thinking about starting a business, but not sure where or how to start. It's also great for those who have started businesses and want guidance in how to continue growing their business. Lastly, I do hope that today's conversation serves to inspire and guide those thinking about entrepreneurship. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so we can get into conversation. All right, so I have a couple questions prepared for you two, but Daman and Victor, do you want to just say a quick hello and then we can get into questions?
Hi, Sarah. Nice to meet you all here, and I really appreciate welcome everyone, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Victor.
Hi everyone, I'm excited to share my experience and for your question in the chat and why the thing.
Perfect. Let's get into it. So the first question I have for the both of you is simple. Just tell us about your business, why you started it, and what needs you filled in the community. Victor, do you mind going first?
Well, of course, thank you, Sarah, for this. 8 of which 10 people interviewed by Adapt the Game that have limited mobility or low vision or any other accessibility challenge experience significant barriers while attending live sporting events, as well as doing the ticketing purchase process to buy tickets for those events. Because of these overwhelming challenges, people often feel discouraged to attend live events. So, solution Adapt the Game is a mobile app that enables fans with disabilities to easily obtain reliable information about accessible seating and ticketing.
I was so impressed, Victor, that something like this exists because I never really thought about it. And I wondered, after you explained it to me, I was thinking, why doesn't it exist already? So thank you so much for creating Adapt the Game because it's necessary. And it's such an easy access spot because it's mobile. It's just another app that we can use to help our lives just be a little bit easier. Daman, can you please tell us about your business, why you started it, and what needs you fill in the community?
My current business is Wandke Consulting, where we provide web accessibility tech and disability inclusion training to businesses and non-profit organizations. When I started my business, it was an accessibility travel startup company called Ability. The goal was to create a hotel booking website to meet the needs of people with disabilities. After a few pivots, we rebranded Wandke Consulting to provide consulting services to make the world more accessible by helping businesses become more accessible.
Thank you so much. I love that Wandke Consulting started with maybe the hotel booking and ensuring that there was accessible travel. But then you said, no, we need to make an accessible world here. And so I love that pivot into even a bigger reach. All right. So the second question I have for the two of you, when you decided to start a business, can you share with us what it was like to decide what to do first? Or what small step or action did you need to do towards your big goal or goals? Victor, would you mind going first?
Of course, thank you so much. And I want to say that the journey and the business of Daman is so awesome. I feel really proud to be in the same panel with him. As for your question, I started questioning my own beliefs about why I wanted to start at the game. Like, I thought about it and asked myself, is this really a problem that people with disabilities are facing, or is it just my experience as a wheelchair, as a fan that is a wheelchair user? And after that step, that I realized that it was a problem to many people that I asked, I started doing research, and then more research, and then more research, until I validate that it is an actual need. And then I started building the business from that point.
Victor, when you were doing your research and asking people if this was a need, what did they say?
Richard, I asked them, walk me to your to the last time you went to a game, and then they start sharing their own story, and I did follow-up questions about the ticketing process, the transportation, what is the first thing that they look for when they are planning to go to an event. And that way I capture the stories that allow me to build the buyer, the ideal buyer persona that I needed for my app, and the help me also to narrow the product market fit.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think research is a great way to start, right? It could be a great first step to figure out who else needs this, exactly what you shared. And sometimes research can just start with talking to the people in our lives and then community members. So thank you so much for sharing. Daman, what about you? When you first decided to start a business, can you share with us what it was like to decide what to do first towards the big goal?
Yeah, when I started my business, the first thing I needed to do was to find a hotel booking provider, because the goal was to create a hotel booking website for people with disabilities. I knew the provider I needed to work with, and through networking in my local community, I found a business person that knew who I needed to talk to. I successfully got the partnership that I needed, but unfortunately, in the end, the business idea did not work out. when I changed it consultant, I was like to find that one of the non-profit organizations where I served on the board of directors needed the services that I offered. So I resigned from the board of directors and became a consultant. This contract kept my business afloat until we were able to find more clients to build a successful business. So I would say, yeah, a lot about who you know, and networking is key. And you can go connect them that you know to get to where you need to go. It's very helpful when you're starting out and along the journey.
I was going to add a question for you, Daman, but you hit it right there. I was going to say, how important is community? And you both know just how important, just through these first two questions, of it's all about connections. It's all about saying hello. This is what my goal is. How can you help? And I love that. But Daman, I do have a question for you. How would you, or what advice would you give someone who is a little bit nervous about networking or getting out into their community?
There are a lot of different ways you can network. You can network at conferences, you can network online on LinkedIn or other social media. Usually, when I'm talking to people about networking, I recommend they think about who, what, and why. Who you are, what you do, and why you want to talk to that individual. And when you introduce yourself, I find using the who, what, why is really helpful to break the ice and hopefully initiate a conversation.
I love that you not only spoke about how important networking is, but you gave step-by-step advice. I have never actually heard of the who, what, and why and applying that to introducing yourself and networking. So if you take anything from today, you can go say hello and you can share who you are, what you do, and why you are talking to that person. I love that so much. Thanks for sharing that, Daman. Okay, so there are so many people who are hesitant about starting a business. Maybe it's because they feel they have to do every part of it on their own. Can you share with us what help you've asked for when you started this business, or even the help you're getting today to grow your business? Victor, do you mind going first?
Yeah. Well, as a solo founder, I have had to wear a lot of hats during the process and perform different roles. But gratefully, because of networking and the years of experience in the disability community and also in the sports industry, I've been able to surround myself with many mentors that have helped me to complement the gaps of knowledge that I do have, because I have them, and they have supported my journey through this process. It's not easy, but the best advice would be to find that group of people that are in your inner cycle that can be your mentors and really believe in what you are serving. And that's the way you can get through it.
I think you spoke so beautifully about the importance of community and a team. As a solo founder, yes, you are the name and face behind the business, but we all need help. And so I love that you talked about mentorship and looking in your inner circle to see who has the skills to help you in getting to your next goal or milestone. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, of course.
Daman, what about you? The same question. With so many people being hesitant about starting a business because maybe they feel like they have to do every single part of it. Can you share with us what help you've asked for and maybe what help you get today to grow your business?
I want to echo what Victor just said. I have built a team from the beginning. I have hired a lot of students and mentored students into roles at my company to now, though they help me and I help them. And I have been lucky to have a lot of mentors and advisors along the way that have provided me with the knowledge of how to successfully build a business. One of my long-term business advisors is now a paid consultant at my company and is trying to help me take the company to the next level. I have also worked with the Small Business Development Center, and then back when I started my business, I participated in a 54-hour startup challenge where a group that created the initial business idea within a weekend. And that what really took my idea from just being an idea to, okay, now I'm ready to start this.
The 54-hour startup challenge. I feel like that should at least be a reality show. That should be on TV. I would love to watch that on Netflix. And I love how this challenge started an actual business. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, and I forgot to say, we won the challenge.
Okay, yeah. I think you're still winning, my friend.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And Daman, you shared a perspective about mentorship where you are the mentor for your students, whether they are past or current. Can you just share a little bit about how that relationship was made? Do people have people approached you and asked you to be their mentor?
Yes and no. So a lot of it is informal. I hire a lot of employees both at my company and personal care assistants and then teaching assistant at the university. So I have hired a lot of students over the years. I teach them how to do the task. And sometimes it might be their first professional job. I hire a lot of interns and I tell them they're not the typical internship where you just getting people coffee. Because we are a small business, you are actually going to dive into real work and have real responsibility. So I mentor both employees as well as other people with disabilities that come to me for advice. If you want to provide or more on a regular basis. So I have been mentored by a lot, and now I lead on the next generation by passing that on and mentoring the next group of leaders.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so can you two please share about a time where you completed maybe what would be called a smaller task or a checklist item in starting or growing your business that actually led to major growth? So, for example, maybe hiring a contractor to help you with a website, which then made you become publicly visible. Victor, why don't you go first?
Okay. Well, life. My dog is elderly. So, if I may, I want to separate this question, this answer into parts, because I think it was really important to create a plan and a logo that really was able or is able to tell the story about the game and our purpose. But the very first time that I thought about this being a real thing, was back in 2021. I participated in a venture challenge, and this was the first opportunity that I had to speak in public after the pandemic. So I had to switch to the from the Zoom environment to in person, and I only had 5 minutes to speak to executive from a sports organization to about the game, So it was really hard, but that led me to winning the third prize of that venture challenge. And with that funding, I started building the MVP that now is launched.
I really appreciate you sharing that story. And I feel like you and Daman are good with time pressure and challenges. With the 5 minutes to pitch, adapt the game to a room full of executives. So congratulations on winning that third prize and being able to start the app. Okay, and Daman, what about you? Yeah. And so, Daman, with the question of, would you be able to share about a time where you completed maybe a checklist item or what you would call a smaller task, but that actually led to major growth in your business?
I would like to build on what I said in the last one. I found out about a 12-week entrepreneurship class in the Seattle area, which is about 2 hours away from where I live. The class was led by a nonprofit that helps children venture succeed. And even though it was a long way to go one evening a week, I dove in and took the class because I felt I needed a refresher on the business basics. At one of the classes, I met a business advisor from Vancouver, BC, who had now been my advisor for 6 years. He now works under contract at my company and is focused on our growth. Going into that class, I had no idea that I would meet someone that would be a long-time asset to my business. And as I mentioned earlier, networking is key. And so many times in my entrepreneurship journey, I have been able to reach out to my network to help me get to that next level.
I think that's pretty great when we meet someone and we can never predict what role they will play in our lives. But it sounds like this person, the business advisor from Vancouver, I mean, y'all have created almost a lifetime of relationship there to help each other grow, which I think is so beautiful. I have a question for you. How did you find out about that business class?
I actually don't recall. I'm not the guy about it from one, but I don't recall exactly how I found out about it. I remember they had a couple of scholarships available, so that helped to get the car down. But I don't recall how I actually heard about it.
Okay, yeah. I know that you had mentioned the Small Business Development Center previously, and I do know that they hold different webinars just like this or classes even. So that could be a great start for someone who is looking to look into courses, or maybe even just connecting with you after this to see who hosted that. But I think classes and scenarios that you can put yourself in a space with other entrepreneurs will really get you to the next level.
Yeah, the name of the organization is called the Spring Incubator in Vancouver, BC. Spring, like the season.
Okay, perfect. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would love to really showcase your experience and knowledge about starting a business by starting small towards a big goal or big goals. So, what advice would you two have to someone who has a business idea and they're passionate about it, but they just don't know where to start? Where would you tell them to start and why? Victor, what about you first?
Yeah, I will go back to your first question and say, like, not only start asking yourself why you want to do it, but also who are you, and like that would open doors. Like, not only talk about your business, tell your own story, your own testimony will open doors for you. And if I may, I will also recommend a book on the chat that is called Start With Why by Simon Sinek, that really helped me through my journey as a very early stage founder. And I also relate to what Daman was saying about VCs and that support, because I have had those accelerators in my journey. So when you're ready, take a shot. They might listen, or if they don't give you the chance at that moment, they will for sure give you right advice and wisdom about how to take your startup or your business to the next level. So I really relate to that, and in my experience is what has worked.
I like that you two, without even planning it, talked about the importance of who, what, and why. It is so important to know that and to live that and to be able to have conversations with everyone about it. Because it really is, the more people you share your goals to, the more people can help. So thank you so much for sharing that, Victor.
Of course.
Daman, same question goes to you. I would love if you could showcase your experience and knowledge about starting a business by starting small towards a goal of yours. So what advice would you have to someone who has such a good idea and they have the energy and passion for it, but they just have no idea where to start?
My advice would be to design what you have in and think about who will pay for your expertise or the project that you would like to build. And then, like Victor was saying earlier, once you figure out who might be willing to pay for it, I suggest that you have informational interviews with your potential customers to learn what their pain points are and what they might be looking for. I will be very open at this point in redefining what you might be able to offer. Once you find the match between what they need and what you can offer, I suggest you try to get a couple early customers to prove your idea is susceptible and to be early adopters. These early customers can then provide you with testimonials to help you with your growth.
Thank you. I love that you shared in somewhat of an indirect way in this question and a previous response how important it is to welcome opportunities that come your way in order to pivot your business, create even better, and to fill even more needs in the community. And that can very much start with conversations with friends or community members of, would you pay for this? Would you need this? And do you know anyone else I can talk to? Again, I almost feel like the theme here for today is community and opportunity and looking for like the pivot almost to really figure out what works for you.
I'm always saying I'm open to new opportunities because you never quite know what opportunity might come your way. An example of that is I was asked if I could teach at the local university, but they assumed I was too busy running my company. And I'm like, nope, I would love to try that out. And I actually found teaching at a university has enough flexibility that I can teach multiple classes and impact students there while running my company at the same time. And I would have never thought about doing that if I wasn't open to opportunities.
Yeah, I would say I would add to that, like leave always the door open to to opportunities and to different places that you can find those early adopters. You know, as an adoptive athlete, I play adaptive sports and work out with other people with disabilities. So I can really second what Damon is saying about taking all the opportunities they can and focus on, like, it's not only about you know, it's about also solving a problem for a large group of people and to get paid for that is important, because if not, won't have you won't have a business if you don't get paid for what you do. And I really like something that the founder, one of the founders of Airbnb said once. He said, like, it's better to have 100 users or 1,000 users that really like you than a million users that some have like you, and don't fall in love with a solution, but fall in love with the problem. You know, many people like to like their solution too much, and as Damon was saying, and he pivot. You know, he pivot from different from a very early concept. So it's not about the solution, it's about the problem. It's about what you're solving.
I really
I
go ahead.
I would like to add a thought that this came to mind. When I started my business, it was business to consumer, which means that consumers will pay for my service. And that requires a lot of people to pay a little bit of money for you to be successful. As I pivoted, I learned that I was better suited in the business to business route. What I sell to business to impact accessibility from that angle, and you can still have impact that way, but you don't need as many clients as you would from business to consumer approach.
Now, I do have an additional question for the both of you, because we've talked about being open to receiving and welcoming these opportunities that allow us to grow. But have y'all been in a situation where an opportunity is given to you, but it doesn't align to what your goals are, and you've had to say, no, thank you? Have you experienced that? Victor, do you want to go first? Oh, you're on mute, my friend.
I had a really small jump during your question. Can you repeat that for me, please?
Yes, I was just talking about how important it is to receive these opportunities and to welcome them. But what happens when something comes your way and it doesn't align to your goals and you say no, thank you? Have you had an experience like that?
Well, I have a hard time saying no, because I see an opportunity in each situation. So I take the time to think about and evaluate how can I get something from this, but also how can I add value to the person that is offering the opportunity to me. I may not be the person to solve what is is needed by this person, but I can probably refer this person or this organization to the right to the right person who is able to solve the need, either if it's because of more time or more knowledge than what I can offer. I'm trying to be really humble with that mindset to not take all the like, not because opportunity is given to me, I have to say yes or no. It's about maybe I can hear you out and see how can I help without actually taking the opportunity, if you know what I mean.
That's a great perspective to share of that. Hey, I might not be the best person for this, but let me try to help anyway by connecting you to someone who might. And that kind of goes back to, if we could help build a community for someone or at least make it stronger, I think that in itself is something that could be so helpful for anyone looking to start a business.
Okay, I really agree. Is I'm happy if I already had this venue that I'm piloting with, and we agreed on a free trial. So the payment moment will come eventually, but it's a chance to help, to add value and impact many people. When I was also doing my website, I had to give advice to the developers about compliance, and then they thank me because they can add that service, that knowledge to their business. So there are many ways that you can help by when you are being helped or while you're being helped.
Exactly. Thank you. Daman, what about you? What situation or experience do you have with opportunities coming your way and it just doesn't align to what you want or what your goal is?
Well, I'm still working on the say no thing. I'm not very good at saying no, but I'm working on that. One that came to mind though was about 10 months ago, I got through my network a full-time job opportunity, and it was work that I can do, but I don't find interesting, and I wouldn't want to do day in and day out. So first I asked if I could do part-time or contract, and they were open to that. So I recommended some software that could help them achieve most of what they were looking for, and said maybe down the road there might be an opportunity to work together.
That's a great example of finding a solution. Thank you for sharing. So, all right, I mean it this time. This is the last question. Can you please share how people can help or support you and your businesses? Victor, why don't you go first?
Well, first of all, thank you for this awesome conversation. It has been a pleasure to have it, to hear it. It's like it feels like we are mirroring our answers without planning it. So it's really awesome. That being said, our app is launched on the App Store and the Google Play Store. So any feedback that the the people can give on the app, it would be highly appreciated, good or bad, because it will make us grow. And as I always say, it's not, I love the game is not only about Victor, it's for all the fans that are out there, sport fans that wish to live that passion for the game equally. And that's the the message that I want to leave, that is for the app is for everyone out there. And just give us your feedback, sign to our mail list, and we would love to hear from you. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Victor. I can't wait to check out the app. Daman, what about you? How can people help Wandke Consulting and you?
Well, while Victor was talking, I downloaded the app. So there we go.
Here we go.
We are always looking to help any business or organization be more accessible. You can check out what we offer on our website, wandke.com, mylastname.com. And if you know of any business or non-profit leaders that are looking to make what they offer more acceptable, please send them our way. And yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you so much. So, Daman and Victor, thank you for your time today. I appreciate the both of you sharing about your businesses, how you got started, and the advice that you have to new or inspiring entrepreneurs. So we have reached the Q&A portion of our presentation, which means we'll go ahead and switch to the live audience to continue the conversation and answer questions that may have come up in the chat.